The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast series, Marketing with Purpose, our short format series where we explore how to create meaningful growth by embedding purpose into your brand's marketing strategy. I'm Steven Sakach here with my co-hosts Tullio, Siragusa, and Mike Liwski. Hey, guys.
Hey, Steven. Good to see you again.
We are back. So today we are talking about a critical shift in modern marketing. It's purpose-led customer personas. Why we need to move beyond segments like age or income and focus instead on shared values, emotional drivers, and deeper resonance. And we've been knee-deep in this for a while with development of our AI CMO product. Check it out at aicmo.io. But yeah, we're knee-deep in this. Mike, kick us off here.
Yeah, I will. And I think what's key about this is there's a problem that exists today with buyer personas, right? Most marketers, they've built personas based on some of those surface traits, as you mentioned, like the age, gender, maybe job profile, and even geos, like locations. And while that is important and that helps, it's barely starting to scratch the surface when it comes to building a good persona.
You know what's sad when you think about how it's been done historically? We've pushed this cloning process where everyone in that area, is that kind of person, right? So we've created this cloning idea of what people who live in certain areas are like. But the reality is that, you may know that your customer's a 38-year-old VP of marketing living in Denver. Maybe they live in a particular area of Denver. But what does that really tell you about what moves them? What inspires them? What do they believe in? That psychographic data is not going to tell you what makes that person sort of tick.
Yeah, and we know the challenge. Here's the challenge. It's if your marketing is built on just demographics, your messaging is just going to feel generic, right? So to truly connect, you need to know what your customers value, what problems they care about solving, and how your purpose aligns with theirs. So you've got to dive in a little deeper than kind of just the standard demographics that you typically find in a Google interface or something like that when you're working.
Yeah. And so then what is it that we want our clients to do, or our listeners to do with their personas? Really, it's to build that purpose-led persona, one that goes deeper. For example, it'll ask some tougher questions, right? Like, for example, what emotional need is the audience or this person trying to fulfill, right? A great tool for that is using an empathy map, right? Because then they can really understand, what are they seeing? What are they thinking, feeling, saying, what are they talking about? So that's number one is, what is that emotional need that this person has? And then from there, what values do they really prioritize in the brands that they support, right? What values do they prize? And then from there, what is their personal or professional mission in life, so that, those two things can align. And then how does your brand help them support what they're trying to achieve in their life?
And this is much easier to do today because people live more openly, they share themselves more openly, so it's easier to get to this information. So but let's think of an example. So instead of Sophie is a 42-year-old VP of HR, that's nice. We don't really know anything about Sophie other than she's 42 and she's a VP of HR. A customer-led persona might be or sound more like Sophie is a bridge builder. She cares deeply about equity in the workplace and wants to have a legacy of human-centered leadership. She's frustrated by bureaucracy and loves tools that empower her team, not just manage them. Now we've got a story about what Sophie cares about, not just who she is.
Yeah, and just defining that, you notice how it opens up, new kinds of messaging, the tone, the content, even your product features. So it's about speaking to her story, not just those stats. Suddenly you've got a much better jumping off point.
Exactly. And now, so the big question again is, as we do with all these shows, is how do you build this? How do you do this, right? So how do you build purpose-led personas? Well, you create these richer, more resonant personas by first listening for emotional clues, right? Go beyond surveys and start interviewing your best customers. That's be curious. It starts with curiosity and empathetic, understanding what matters to them. What made them choose your brand? What were they hoping for? What did they tell others about your company? There's different layers of questions you want to do, because when you answer what made them choose your brand, it's not just a transactional need they have. You want to go deeper. It's like what feeling or what emotion or what experience led them to that decision. It's not just what transaction they fulfilled. So that's the key thing. As you build these purpose-led personas, you want to go a layer deeper than just the transaction. You want to understand the motivation behind the decision was made. So when you ask these questions, you're digging into the motivation, which helps you get to this purpose-led personas.
I love that you highlighted those things, Tullio, because those are a great starting point, right? Those are absolutely key before you can even move on to any next step. But once you do have those components, then start to identify the shared values that we have, for example, with Sophie and ourselves, right? Or our brand. If you notice that a lot of your customers care about sustainability or empowerment or really just simplicity, that's a pattern worth integrating into your persona strategy.
Yeah, exactly. And that also points out, like, look at what your customers resist, right? So sometimes their values are reflected in what they don't want. So you mentioned simplicity. Well, they don't want complexity, right? So, or maybe they don't want performative branding or impersonal service, right? So that's gold for defining a narrative that aligns with them.
And then we often talk about the experience, but we want to define that. We want to put a little bit more emphasis on what is the transformation that we are enabling. It's not just the experience. It's how does the product help this person become something more? What identity do they step into after working with you? That's where you really begin to unlock deep loyalty, because now you're influencing the way someone feels. We've often said it's not being seen, it's about how you make people feel. And so you want to think about this transformation that you're enabling, not just an experience. It's a level that's deeper than that, because most brands who resonate extremely well with the customers, they facilitate a difference in their lives, the way they feel, the way they step into a different mindset or different way of being because of something they purchased from you. They resonate with it in an emotional level. So you want to be cognizant and intentional about achieving this goal.
Yeah. And again, we don't want to, make it more complex, or this isn't rocket science. When you have this narrative, it's really quite simple, right? If you want to get to Sophie, she's frustrated by complexity. Put that in your ad copy. Are you frustrated by complexity? ? Are you trying to build deeper connections within your workplace? All of those can just become part of your marketing, so that you then can connect.
You kind of mentioned it, right? That, like, we were talking about that earlier. Once you get that story, like, those things just pop, right? Those questions that you're asking, and you don't need to spend a ton of time, researching how am I going to approach this. Suddenly you're seeing things just pop out, and it's taking you much further than where if you were just, okay, Sophie, 42, VP, HR. Right. You're like, I don't know.
Are you looking for tools to empower your team? ? Or a tool to empower your team? It's like all right there, right?
It reminds me of like solution selling. One of the most strategic, most impactful selling methodologies has been solution selling. And one of the things they always tell you is, when the clients ask the question or made a statement, repeat it back to them. It's like, why do you do that? They just asked that question because when you repeat back, it resonates. It's you letting them know, I get what's important to you. So by asking those questions, like you said, Mike, it's reiterating that we get what's important to you. There's a resonance that happens with that. It's like, wow, they know exactly what matters to me. That in itself creates intimacy and connection. It's not that complicated. It's easy stuff, but most brands overlook it. It's really simple stuff, but it's important.
Yeah. They want to go and reinvent, the new wheel of ad copy. But yeah, I love it. It's like, you can almost see like an exhalation from your target audience when they read that, because like, finally somebody that gets me, right? It's like my people. So, and that's really, that's what the big takeaway is, right? The purpose-led personas help you to stop that noisy marketing and really help you to start connecting with them. And you're not just selling segments, but really you're starting to align all of that with a shared meaning.
And when your marketing reflects the customer's belief, their goals, their deeper motivation, they don't just buy from you. They become champions for you. They join your community and they champion your community. And they see themselves as part of your brand story. And that's when you've really won. That's the jackpot, so to speak.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. And this is how you move from customers community, from transactions to trust. And it all starts with knowing who your customer is on the inside. And we have a great tool on our AI Chief Marketing Officer that really, it takes you through this emotional customer journey and on several different levels. So if you're looking for ideas on how to do that with your customers, check it out. It only takes a few minutes too, but it gives you this great point to leap off of, like we were just showing, like Mike's example with the ad copy. It's just like once you go through that exercise, it kind of changes everything for you. Yeah. So when you market to the person and not just the profile, your purpose becomes the connection. And that's how brands create advocates and not just buyers, like we've mentioned. So keep that in mind, keep that on your focus whenever you're doing your ad copy. If you're just feeling like, okay, this doesn't pop, this is, sounding like everything else, it's probably because you're not making that deeper connection.
Yeah, I like that part, Stephen. The purpose becomes the connection.
Yeah. So thanks for listening again to the Bliss Business Podcast and our Marketing with Purpose series. Please like, subscribe, and share, or leave a review. Every little thing helps. And we'll see you next time.